I'd like to acknowledge the Eora people of place on Wongal country, the traditional custodians of the land we walk upon. As you travel across Wongal country, remember that this land is sacred and all living things have a place in the web of life. The Wongal are recognised as a centre of the circle of belonging at Sydney Olympic Park. We respect our elders, past and present, and our youth as young leaders who guide us on the journey of healing through belonging.
What elements are important in developing great accessible and inclusive public places for the future?
I am absolutely sure that people with a disability or who may be from a different group that doesn't quite fit in with society in generally, or they're considered an outsider, they don't want to be treated differently. It's up to the people that plan for things to ensure that an experience that they deliver or a facility that they build is allowing those people to use the facility just like everybody else.
I think that if you're designing any place or space, I think the best thing to do is to understand who's going to be using it and to be able to think about the needs of a whole range of people, whether they be people on the autism spectrum, whether they be people with a physical disability or a mental impairment, a whole range of different ages. How can everybody experience a place and get an equal benefit out of it as well?
I think the first thing that has to happen is that you get your planning right. Your master plan goes from there, everything builds off that master plan. So if you have clear direction on your accessibility and your inclusion, you can build off that base. So it's important to get that right, and then all the technical componentry of the access and inclusion requirements will follow after that.
In getting great public spaces, it's about planning for them, designing for them, managing them well, and of course activating them. And this of course affects the way we use them and the way we experience them. So it's incredibly important that there's thought about how we plan for them, design, manage and activate them. And at the essence of that, of course, is how they are made welcoming and accessible to all.
When we're building something from scratch, it's just really important that we embed accessibility inclusion or universal design principles at that beginning, and everything else will fall into place.
It's a bit of a mindset in terms of how you would champion access and inclusion. It is a mindset. It is about opening your arms out and say, come and we'll work with you. It's about having some respect for a whole range of groups.
The biggest thing I think you need to do is collaborate. You can't do things in isolation. You need to involve people. You involve people with disability. You involve people with families. You involve seniors. You involve everybody that's going to be using the site, and you get their feedback. You get what do they want and what will work for them, and then you build.
Where I've seen the best successes is where organisations have someone embedded into their organisation that understands and promotes universal design within the organisation, rather than just bringing in a consultant for 5 minutes to do something and then off they go again. It's about acculturating people to access and inclusion.
The key learnings around disability and inclusion for Mirvac and for me personally has been, it's just how important it is to get people involved up front and well before construction starts. So you've really got to think about it as early as possible in the design process so that we can make sure that we can accommodate all of the needs.
I think for Mirvac, the idea of inclusive and accessible spaces is to the point of making it not obvious, so that it becomes an integrated design where it's not obvious that a door is a little bit wider, or it's not obvious that you've got a ramp, or it's not obvious that it is a little bit different to what might normally happen. A great example of that here at Pavilions is the podium that we're sitting on. If you look around, you can actually see that you can get to every part of the podium by ramp or by stairs, and therefore it's accessible to everybody.
My message to the business community, whenever they're thinking about anything they're doing in relation to their business, is to make sure that disability, access and inclusion is absolutely one of the priorities that they look at, because it does make good business and economic sense to have disability, access and inclusion as one of the key things.
The big thing is collaboration. We want the members within Sydney Olympic Park, who are sports organisations and recreation providers, to be able to talk to builders within Sydney Olympic Park and then work together to make these things a reality.
I think it's important when a developer or a business coming to the park thinks about access and inclusion. They can certainly have the opportunity to work with us and our Access Advisory Committee. We're here to help. We've got great resources that can add a lot of value. So for developers and businesses coming to the park, we want to see that engagement. We want to see that consideration about access and inclusion.
We are doing a number of things to improve access and inclusion, to remove barriers, to increase participation opportunities. But we know we can do much more. Whether you are a disability organisation, a business in the park, or a resident or a community member, join us. We want to work with you to improve access and inclusion at Sydney Olympic Park.
For more information on access and inclusion at Sydney Olympic Park, please visit www.sopa.nsw.gov.au.